now we have serious speaker. I'm joking. She will show you Muppet show, I think, no? With all this, we'll see. Okay. So I know Katya for years already, and this is such a character, such a person who actually bring to Ukraine a lot of ideas, people, and concepts and instruments. And today, Katya's topics can help, I think, to all of us to move towards the better communication. And Katya represents the organization Empatia Pro, which helps schools and business organizations to implement nonviolent communication inside the organization. And actually, she helps a lot of good people around her and good companies. Please meet Kateryna Yasko. Louder, please, louder. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Sasha, for so warm words of introduction. And it's been really quite a lifetime since we know each other and contribute to each other's lives, both personally and professionally. So thank you for all you do, and your family, actually, and the team. Frankly speaking, I'm a bit torn between two things. I prepared this presentation in English, thinking of those international guests that are so welcome here in Ukraine, and thinking maybe it would be interesting for you to know more about what we practice here in the democratic schools, at least in some of them, and the tools that contribute to making them really democratic. But at the same time, what I see here, the most audience, like larger part of audience is Ukrainian. Please raise your hands who understands me. Thank you. It gives me some hope. And I also would like to tell you, я скажу це українською, ті, які по різним причинам не до кінця розуміють, чи через складнощі перекладу.
Those of you who really do not know enough English to be following this, because sometimes it's difficult for our interpreters that so feel free to move to another activity, maybe, because I really want you to benefit from what's going on.
And in case there is something completely not understandable, please let me know, and we can also translate it into Ukrainian or Russian immediately. I'd like to start from one little exercise that I've learned from visiting two countries that completely changed my life. In 1919, I've been for the first time in my life to India. I was actually honored to be the part of this group that attended the Dalai Lama, the first Ukrainian delegation to Dharamsala, and to South Africa. And what changed my perception in terms of how people connect was the way they greet each other. And I would like to teach you how in these countries people greet each other. And I would like to reflect very shortly with you what is the difference between the way we connect through greeting and these two cultures. So in South Africa, when representatives of the Zulu tribe, and which is the biggest clan or tribe in South Africa, when they greet each other, they say "Sawubona," what means, if we translate it into English, "I see you," or in Ukrainian, "Я бачу тебе." And the person who is greeted at that moment responds "Nuhawana," which means, "I'm here to be seen." Я тут, щоб бути побаченим тобою. I saw the same parallel in the way people greet each other in India. Who knows what does namaste mean? How is it translated when people say namaste? How can we translate it? Хто знає, як перекладається намасте? Да. The God in me sees the God in you. Бог в мені бачить Бога в тобі. What I would like to kindly ask you is to greet at least 4 people around you in the following way. One says, turns to another and says, as Zulu do, "I see you." And the another one responds, "I'm here to be seen." And then you can say, the first person may say, "Welcome," or you can say namaste, as you wish. So 1 minute for that. Please greet at least 4 people around you in the Zulu and Indian way. Short question to you. What have you noticed? Maybe you weren't able to do this exercise fully, because otherwise you would walk. If we would do it with children, we would walk around and we would touch each other. We would hold hands as Zulu do. In this case, you just maybe turn to a few people. The idea that I wish to bring is, how much intention and energy do you bring into connecting with other people? How do we usually greet each other? Normally, it happens like that. Ну що, привіт? Як там справа? Як звіт? There is even a short difference that I noticed in our language and in English. In English, they say, "How are you?" Як ти? In Russian, they say, "Как дела?" So basically, it's more about the doing than being, isn't it? Більше про режим роблення, да, ніж режим буття. So next time you'll be greeting someone here during the conference, my suggestion would be, greet them wholeheartedly. Try to see beyond physical. Another saying of the Zulus in South Africa, they say, Ubuntu Nubantu Ngadabantu, which is a person becomes a person through other people. Людина стає людиною через або завдяки іншим людям. When a plane drives the starting line, it's very similar to a car, isn't it? It starts to be a plane when it's in the air, right? The same thing with human beings. We shed light on each other. Basically, we are, in a way, recognizing each other. We are shedding light on each other's existence. So next time you greet someone, notice how you connect. I've started this little, from this little passage of the multicultural world we live in. And just few more illustrations how different we are. When I work with teachers, I usually say, look, you are now working with children who in about 10 years will be working in the following way. One from Ukraine, another from Austria, the third one from Pakistan, the fourth one from Finland, the fifth one from India, and that will be a team. And they all get around Zoom and they perform a project. When I work with companies, it's their reality today. So living in this multicultural world, there are so many different perspectives, so точки зору, so many different views, so many different paradigms, thinking paradigms and values we're dealing with every day. Now, a question to you. What are the differences between the stakeholders of your schools? On which criteria can we say they're different? According to which parameters? Tell me. What else? Background, age, what else? Huh? Goals, okay, everybody has different goals. What else? Lifestyle, thank you. What else? Huh? Mindset, thank you. Nationalities, cultures, exactly. What else? Huh? Methods, approaches, methodologies that they practice. What else? Religions, thank you. Yeah, different emotional background, different experiences that condition the way we think and the way we act. There are so many differences. Have you ever noticed anything like that in your work or life? Due to those differences. If I see nodding faces, that would really help me. Якщо я буду бачити іноді, що ви мені киваєте, це для мене буде знак, що ви мене розумієте. Тому що я ще трошки переключуся на українську мову. Буду дуже вдячна за зворотній зв'язок з вами. Це може бути посмішка, це може бути так, і це буде означати для мене.
I want you to respond by nodding something. It's something that if you feel uncomfortable, please give me a sign.
Self-importance. I'm just speaking to our international guests that when you nod or when you smile to me, it's a great feedback for me. Or maybe you can also nod like this. If you're an Indian, that would be actually quite supportive. But if you're not, I would understand that I have to switch to something else. I'd like to tell you one story. Before I introduce you to the method, the approach I've dedicated my life to for the past 7 years, I'd like to tell you a short story. There is a teacher, that maybe she's not here, Leila Aliva. She is the one who teaches storytelling. She says that's the best way to present anything, any idea. So I'll tell you a story. In 2013, my husband, who was another speaker of the conference, Vytautas Pučiūnas, he was invited to Russia to be the leader, the head of the representative office of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which is a half diplomatic, half financial institution, and we as a family had to follow him. And that was the time when the Revolution of Dignity started. And then part of it, still in 2013, we spent here in Kiev with a little baby. Our youngest son was born in September 2013. In November 2013, the Revolution of Dignity started. And then in January, we moved to Rostov-on-Don. And for 2 years almost, we've been living there, being witnesses of what's been happening there. And you know, here in Ukraine, I assume it was very hard time for Ukraine, since we more or less, from informational and communicational perspectives, we're here through Facebook and news. At the same time, we could be physically there and also in this space from the communication and information perspective, so we could compare. And what we lived through is tremendous pain that two nations were going through. And me being a psychologist at that time, I was finishing my 3rd degree, I was so helpless, because here we could somehow direct our efforts into helping in this or that way. And there you cannot help. And then at a certain point I decided I go and I work with the refugees that were coming from Ukraine to this part, to the Russian part. And as a psychologist, I was working with children in 2015, meeting them at the railway station. Basically, it's Rostov-on-Don railway station, and small volunteer initiative, several psychologists who worked with adults and children in the worst times when the war erupted. And something I'm showing you today now, it's really something that was witnessed with our own eyes. It's not just taken from internet. It's real pictures. This is the parade of children's troops. Rostov-on-Don, 2015. Something I came with after seeing all these images that tremendously influenced my life is that there is so much pain in our collective. There is so much violence that is going on, not just in Syria or in the eastern Ukraine. And the reason, that was my personal answer after going through this experience. The reason of that violence is, first of all, because from the very beginning, from the primary school, children are not taught to resolve conflicts peacefully. I'd like to stress, because unfortunately, within this presentation, I won't be able to tell you, I won't be able to teach you nonviolent communication. But I would like to draw your attention just to the idea that the only way we can heal this enormous amount of pain that is there in our collective, especially in this country that went through 2 Holodomors, 2 famines, 2 world wars, Chernobyl, the revolution in 2004, the revolution in 2013-14, and then the war in eastern Ukraine. What is extremely important as a new stress, as a new focus of the reform of education is emotional development. Basically healing this pain that is there in our nervous system. Otherwise, my assumption is that we just won't be able to build a democratic society. How can we do it? I really love this saying of Virginia Satir, an American psychologist and psychotherapist. I see communication as a huge umbrella that covers and affects all that goes on between human beings. Tell me, please, whom did you learn to communicate from? Від кого ви навчалися комунікації, спілкуванню? Parents, exactly. Who else? Teachers, thank you. Who else? Yeah, parents. Huh? Friends, grandparents, exactly. When my grandmother was growing and getting married, that doesn't matter whether she would be an angel or a witch. She knew that most probably she would stay in the same marriage forever, would work in the same place forever and would live in the same house forever. Something changed in our times. If we want to keep the marriage, if we want to have career growth, if we want to have good relationships with our children, we really need to learn something. Because back at these times, the social structures were keeping the order. Were producing the norms according to which we lived. Today, it's not possible. And my idea is that there is an urgent need for new ways and tools for building communication, or for relating, or for connecting with people of different backgrounds, different mindsets, different values, etc., etc. And now I would like to introduce you to the teacher. Unfortunately, I haven't ever met personally. I have met many of his students. Marshall Rosenberg was the author, is the author still, of the nonviolent communication, a method that is in our days taught in all kinds of surroundings. That would be business, politics, diplomacy, education, parenting, medicine, etc., etc. He once said, if we change ourselves, we can change the world. And changing ourselves begins with changing our language and methods of communication. This is something that is taught all over, the importance of an artificial intelligence and that robots will soon substitute us in many ways. I'll show you in which they will never substitute us. This is peer-to-peer NVC mediation. These are little children in one of the democratic schools in Costa Rica, mediating a conflict between themselves. They are 7 and 8 years old. And I truly believe that this is the way we can heal this enormous trauma that is there in our blood and in our collective nervous system. We have to teach children emotional and social intelligence, and particularly mediation skills. The main book that was written by Marshall Rosenberg looks like that. I just would like to do some publicity. This is the Russian version, and you can buy it all over. And Ukrainian version is coming. It's called Ненасильницька комунікація, мова життя. These are the companies that at that point implement nonviolent communication. Many of them at the very beginning when people are just entering during the onboarding program. These are some of the companies and schools in Ukraine that teach NVC, and we are very proud to be in one of them now. Marshall Rosenberg used the puppet language when he was teaching children and teachers. And he was using these two puppets, which is a jackal and a giraffe. And a giraffe represented the toxic ways of behavior we demonstrate, which is blame, criticism, aggression, depreciation, etc., etc. And the giraffe, which is used as a figure that represents the animal with the biggest heart. You know why giraffe? 2 reasons. It's the animal with the biggest heart of all land animals. This is first, and second, because it has huge neck, which means it can look from different perspectives. Okay. Маршал Розенберг використовував 2 метафори, коли він навчав вчителів і дітей ненасильницькій комунікації.
Marshall Rosenberg used 2 analogies. A jackal is a metaphor for all those toxic modes of behavior: guilt, aggression, criticism, depreciation, you name it. And the giraffe was used as a metaphor to demonstrate the following qualities and skills: self-reflection, emotional awareness, congruence, and integrity, empathy, and inclusive thinking, healthy vulnerability,
здатність бути асертивними,
a response ability, assertiveness and speaking up, ability to seek clarity and dive into courageous conversations. That's part and parcel of emotional intellect.
I would like to finish by this quote of Dominic Barter, the developer of restorative circles. He used to say, conflict is not a problem that needs solving, but a phenomenon that needs understanding. Конфлікт – це не проблема, яку потрібно вирішувати.
Conflict is not a problem that needs solving, but a phenomenon that needs understanding.
І для того, щоб продемонструвати вам, як
In order to demonstrate to you how nonviolent communication really works, I would like to show you a short exercise of four ways to receive criticism. And I'm going to hand out to you.
не впевнена, що на всіх
I'm not sure if I have enough for everyone, but just to share around the audience. And now, just to demonstrate to you how it works, I will be using this nice pair of ears. The basis of non-violent communication is based on 4 steps. Observation is the ability to recognize feelings, what you're feeling and the other person, and what's behind this, whether it's satisfaction, dissatisfaction, and the perfect case, the ideal case is just to make a request. I would now like to invite you to criticize me, and I am going to respond using one of the 4 methods. Who would like to criticize me? One piece of criticism. What will you say when you go out of this hall without me around? So look, it's so easy for you to tell all this to us. It's like if you went back to a family where your husband is making pennies and you have your household is full of all sorts of problems and everyone wants something from you and there's only one of me. Will this ever end?
I can react. Would you prefer me to react in Ukrainian? Так? Українською? Я можу відреагувати 4 способами.
Okay, I can respond to this using 4 methods.
Я почула критику.
What I just heard was
Назовні.
guilt, was criticism, and
Подивіться на неї. Ні, головне, що замість
so
того, щоб сказати
instead
конструктивну
of
критику, коротко
giving
і
me
ясно, вона
constructive
просто дала цілу
criticism,
історію.
she told me
Про якусь
a
незадоволену
whole
жінку.
story about
Абсолютно не конкретно,
a frustrated
абсолютно
woman
не в тему.
completely
Взагалі,
in-
ви колись вчились питання задавати?
unspecific. Have you ever learned to ask questions?
Що я можу зробити?
So what I can
Я
do,
можу переадресувати
I can simply
критику на інших.
redirect
Це те, що ми
this
дуже часто робимо.
criticism,
Так,
throw it
включаємо
back
в
at the person criticizing me. That's what we turn on our defenses. Another way of responding to criticism
Всередину.
is guilt is inside.
Коротше, здається, те, що я тут розказую, взагалі не в тему.
I think that, or I'm talking nonsense. I think that people are not responding because they do not appreciate the value of all these are nice words, but maybe something that doesn't fit the Ukrainian context. What am I doing on this stage? I should have sat in a dark corner in silence. Now they're going to criticize me in the evaluation forms. I'll have to
Це капець.
close down. Okay, I'm done.
То я можу звернути
So I could turn the criticism
на себе.
inwards.
Ми ще це називаємо самобічування.
Yeah, we call it self-flogging. There is one alternative reaction. I could respond with my empathy ears inside.
Вибачте. Чуючи це, я відчуваю
Hearing this, I feel frustrated. It makes me very sad because I've noticed that some of the things that sound very nice when you speak about them, but when you process them within the Ukrainian context and all the hardships that women in Ukraine have to put up with, and those hardships are quite strong. So what is my goal? What's behind my feelings? Well, I would like to see understanding, appreciation that I'm only human and I'm only doing what I can, and there's hardly anything more I can do. There is one more way of responding with the giraffe ears turned outside. When posing this question, you probably also feel sad and frustrated. Maybe there's doubt whether this works, whether this would work in the difficult environment in which people in this country currently find themselves, having to shoulder so much responsibility. Maybe the genuine need behind this, maybe this is strife for integrity. Maybe somebody just you want people to practice what they preach and what is being taught. Consultants and trainers, we want to see all this talking converted into real walking, into instruments that really work. Just a couple of recommendations. We are working together with a partner. We are having all the books written by Marshall Rosenberg translated into Ukrainian. We are also having this great book being translated, written by an NVC coach for parents. It's a whole array of tools and the training courses offered by Empatia Pro to develop empathy, to develop emotional intelligence within the home and school settings. It's a quote from Dan Millman. Peace comes Peace comes not from the absence of conflict, but from the ability to cope with it. This society really needs the tools to help achieve amicable solutions and settlements in this very tense environment that we live in. And we should start at a very early age to teach our children to act as mediators, to share their feelings and teach them to relate to the feelings of others. If we are able to integrate this into the fabric of our schooling, into our democratic school environment, then we will be able to resolve the current ongoing 62 military conflicts. I would be happy to continue entertaining you. My time slot was 30 minutes and I was being given signs that I was running out of time, but I don't have anyone to take over from me. Any comments, any thoughts? It's not a question, but I would like to express to everyone in attendance that I would like to thank you for your training course when you came out and for helping us learn to respond to criticism. And we were among the first who were teaching the teachers, and we were confronted with a lot of criticism, and this helped us preserve our integrity, Oksana.
Я просто озвучу для тих, хто не почув. Дякую дуже, Оксано. Ми дійсно
збиралися у Свідорі
на тренінгу для тренерів душ.
Got together, it was a TOT, a train the trainer event, and we put a lot of energy into helping teachers embrace NVC to promote partnerships. As part of this training course, it was so gratifying to see that great response that we were getting from the trainers. And I am profoundly convinced, and I hope you are too, that participatory teaching it's not something that you can impose in an authoritarian fashion. So if we're talking about adult education, this is something to be taught and to be learnt. This is related to our vertical growth. If you attended the lecture by Vitas Bachunas, it's new subjects, new languages, new skills that you learn if you want to learn to use Excel. We refer to this as horizontal learning. There is another axis of growth and development, so-called vertical development. It is how you develop your mindset, how you develop your values. And in this particular respect, non-violent communication is not just a tool. It is a worldview, if you will. And I would like to use the quote by Dalai Lama in February. Actually, it was he pronounced it at the conference in Delhi. And he said, "My dear friends," and he's a big laugh. The Dalai Lama. He's such an easygoing person as a leader. And I have a friend. He's an ecologist, and he says, whatever we do, we've got 80 years left. In light of the climate change that has already occurred, there's very little we can do to change that. That's not my problem. It's up to your children to clean up this mess. Okay, if we are only left with 80 years on this earth, how are we going to spend this time? In war, in violence, in hatred, or in harmony, in growth, in development? It is your call to make that choice, even if it's not 80 years. But we are now at an important turning point, and we badly need to embark on new methods, new tools to encourage vertical growth, vertical development. How to teach our children under a brand new paradigm, prioritizing spiritual development and emotional development. And I would like to strongly encourage you to design and embark on those instruments. Thank you.